Hey guys, this is Lady Miz, and this is Talk Therapy here on From the Ground Up Productions. Today, I am going to be talking to you guys about why it is extremely important to safeguard your family from unnecessary debt when someone passes away. We're going to be talking about the steps that you can take to make sure that your family is financially secure even after you're gone.
You're now tuned in. To Talk Therapy with Lady Miz.
Hey guys, so yes, it's been a minute since I've done talk therapy, but let me just tell you that for me, I am excited about the breaks that I take for my own self-care. But I am happy to be back and to be sharing things with you guys here on Talk Therapy. So let's get into it. We're going to first talk about life insurance. I know a lot of people pay that extra money. They probably look at it as it's like just an extra unnecessary expense. If you have kids or loved ones that if something happened to you, they depend on you and your finances to survive, you do not want to leave them in a situation where they can't really depend on no one else and they are struggling. And let's face it, in today's economy, most people are struggling to get by because the prices of everything keep rising and rising and rising, right? Rent, interest rates, food, everything is going up. You want to make sure that you are setting things up so that you are protecting the ones that you love. And I have to tell you, if you have money for going out, going on vacation, going out the country, going to the club, cigarettes, drinks, weed. I have to say it because you know some of y'all what you do, right? If you could budget your money for those things, then you surely can budget your money for something that's extremely important, which is life insurance. And let me tell you something. I am not judging anyone out there, but I will say this. A GoFundMe is not life insurance. A GoFundMe is asking other people to help you pay for an expense that you either are responsible for or took on the responsibility. Once you take on that responsibility, or you know that responsibility is yours, then if you are seeking help from a whole bunch of people or strangers, then how do I say this without it coming off mean? Because I don't want to do that. But I'm going to say it clear and blunt. It is nobody else's responsibility to make sure your loved ones is buried the correct way. So if that is your job, you need to be talking to them saying, hey, do you have life insurance set up? Because if you don't and you expect me to take care of it, then that means that you're putting that financial burden on me. Have a conversation, a respectful conversation with your loved ones. But remember, it's a conversation that needs to be had. So you need to have this conversation with your loved ones so that you guys can get things in order. I'm not going to get deep into life insurances. I could just only tell you about mine because I don't want to come off as if I sell life insurance, because I don't. And I don't want to say anything that go against any policy or companies that's out there that makes it look like I'm giving information when I'm not licensed to do so. Life insurance is an insurance policy that if you or one of your loved ones was to pass away, whoever is the beneficiary on that policy would receive that money. And that money could be used towards funeral expenses and being able to take care of the loved ones that was depending on the deceased person's income to take care of them. If you can find ways to budget for everything else when it comes to recreation things, then you can find money to budget for your life insurance because it is extremely important. Now, there is whole life and there is term. Now, whole life comes with a lot of different other names that they come up with. I'm not going to get into that, but I will tell you this. Big shout out to Susie Orman because I used to watch her on the regular basis. Term life is the way to go for me, okay? And now let me tell you my opinion, disclosure on the difference. Term life, you're paying insurance for a certain period of time, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it is, right? But you can have a term life insurance and you pay every month or a quarterly or however you choose to pay. You pay that, and this is just in case something was to happen. But term life insurance is way less expensive. Let's say you get it for 30 years, which I have. You have a 30-year policy, and then once the 30 years is up, you can either get a different type of insurance. You might not need as much insurance as you would have years ago, right? Because your kids might be older, your debt might be less, your house might be paid off. So you might not need that. But if you have a whole life insurance, you're paying more money every single month, and it's for your whole life, guys. Okay? Whole life insurance. It's for your whole life. Whatever other name they gave it, it's for your whole life. You pay that amount forever. Even if your expenses have went down, even if you don't have a mortgage, even if your kids are grown, you still are tied into paying that. Now, and what I know to be true, okay, you can borrow from the money that only you put in it. Why do I say it just like that? Because yes, I have seen people on social media giving information that I'm telling you from my experience is not true. You cannot just borrow all this extra access money that you did not put into the policy. When I had whole life insurance, and I was told I have access to the funds that I put into that policy. Not what the policy was worth, okay? Just the amount that I put into it. And when it was time for me to go and change my policy, I got the money back that I put into it. But I'm just telling you my experience and what I know to be true based off of what I actually done when it comes to life insurance. Now, let's get into the other part, a trust. So I'm going to explain it the best way that I know how, guys. A trust, it avoids probates, fees, court fees. If you was to pass away and you have a home or several homes and things in your name, and you will that asset to your kids, right? Let's say your kids, and you pass away. They have to now go through the court and all these fees, probate fees, and it can eat up away at the money and the things that you are leaving for them. So if you want to skip past that and put the assets in the trust, then your family can get the property is given to them or your kids, whoever you choose to give it to, and they do not have to pay those probate fees. So a trust is an extra protection step for your family, okay? So that's it. Any additional information deeper into that, you have to talk to a lawyer. I'm only telling you the basics because this is what I'm doing, right? I have a will. I had a trust written out, but it was inside the will, but it wasn't a separate trust that was going to help me, help my kids avoid paying those probate fees. There's a revocable trust and irrevocable trust. Revocable means changes could be made. You have a trust, you can make changes to it anytime. Irrevocable, changes cannot be made. Life insurance, trust. Now let's talk about the will. The will obviously is something that you create because you want to tell everybody what it is that you want, where you want things to go, etc. The will does not protect you against any probate fees. If you have a will, hey, I want to leave this to this person, I want to leave that to this person, they have to follow what's in the actual will. But if you just have a will and you don't have a trust, they will get the things that you are leaving to them, but they will pay fees if you do not have a trust, which means if there's money and all these other things, they're going to eat away at those assets, okay? And you don't want that to happen. So pay in advance and get the trust. All right, let's talk about power of attorney. Someone that's a power of attorney, if let's say you couldn't speak for yourself or you were unable to handle certain things, you appoint a person that you trust to be your power of attorney. They have access to your banking information, to your bank accounts. They can make decisions on your behalf and things like that. You know, you want to look into everything that a power of attorney offers you, but you definitely want something like that in place. Let's say you get sick and you're on your way out, right? and bills still got to be paid, but you're still living, but you still need somebody to help pay those bills. You want somebody that you could trust. You don't want somebody that say, I'll take care of you, and they staying in the house, but they drinking and smoking and eating, and they ain't taking care of you, but they taking care of your money though, for them, but not for you. So you want to make sure that you appoint someone that you really trust and believe in, and that is responsible. And you could tell who is responsible by the way they are living now. How do they treat you now? Are they responsible with their own stuff? Or are they all over the place and you know, like, ain't no way I'm putting this person in charge of handling me? Because if you can't take care of you, how you going to take care of me? All right. There's also something called the 5 wishes, guys. 5 wishes. Now, I did a paper on this when I was in college, and we had access to this. I believe that there is a fee for it, but we had access to the actual forms, and we were able to create the 5 wishes. The 5 wishes is something that, and I'm going to explain it the best way that I can, guys. The 5 wishes is you list like 5 things, but me, I list like a whole list. I'm not going to lie. You list like 5 things that you want people to do for you if they were your caregiver, if they were the ones that were taking care of you. I like to make sure that you brush my teeth every day, morning and night. I want to make sure that I shower every single day. I want to be in a clean environment. So I'm just giving you some examples. Please take me out once a week or 3 times a week and let me get some fresh air and do some activities. If I can't do these things for myself, I'm expecting you to do them for me. So most of the time, the person who is following the 5 wishes would most likely be like someone like a caregiver. Let me tell you why the 5 wishes is so important. Listen to me. Everyone is different with the way that they take care of themselves. Now, I'm not being mean. Some people don't shower every day. Some people don't brush their teeth every day. Okay? I'm just saying. So here's the thing. Do you want someone that does not take care of themselves properly to take care of you? And do you have that expectation that they're actually going to take care of you better than they take care of themselves? I mean, that's something for you to think about. I'm just letting you know what's out there and what you should have in order to make sure your stuff is correct. Funeral expenses. Now, if you have a life insurance policy, your family can use that for funeral expenses. If you have a life insurance policy that it's covering, or you just want to leave everything to your kids or your spouse or whoever, you may want separate a separate account for funeral expenses. Now, let me tell you, there's a lot that go into funeral expenses, okay? I had to do my own research to say, listen, guys, I told my kids, I don't want a funeral. I don't want a funeral. Do direct burial, okay? Listen, this is just me. Do direct burial. Have private, just the immediate family to view me, my body, if I was to pass away. Go ahead, do direct burial, which means I want to be buried, okay? I do not want to be cremated or turned into a tree or the other things that's out there. I don't want that. So, and do not have the after party, because it is not your job to be, when you are grieving, to be catering to everybody else who never came around, don't barely speak to you, don't or haven't spoken to you, won't even talk to you or come check you, or don't have no relationship with you, and all of a sudden they show up at your funeral. For me, and I can only speak for me, if you weren't talking to me then I can't hear you now. The only people that I'm concerned about are the ones that's in my life that I know love me now. And people should be bringing you food. So the repast, I know people love to do that. I know a lot of times people are so stuck in the traditional ways of doing things, and that's okay if you want to do it. I don't want it. I call it now, what I call it now is the after party. No after party. Let the people who really care about you come and bring you stuff if they care for you. They're supposed to be there to support you and lift you up and hold you up when you're grieving. Some of the things that go into funeral expenses, if you decide to have one, you have to be thinking about a lot of things. How much is it going to cost for the funeral home? How much is it going to cost for the body? Do you want embalming fluid? Most of the time they do that to preserve the body because it's going to be open casket. They got to have makeup. What clothes are you going to be wearing? What type of casket do you want? The flowers, the preacher, if you want one. Do you want it in a church or at a funeral home? If you're getting buried, how much does it cost to, because it costs to dig up the dirt. It costs to put the body in the ground. It costs to put the dirt back back in the ground once they bury you. The tombstone that goes on the top, the engraving that's there, the actual plot. You got to pay for that. Do you want an autopsy or you don't want an autopsy? The obituary. Are you going to have a repast? So now they got to come up with the food and how many people and the actual place where they're going to do it. And to use the actual funeral home, it costs money. If you want someone to preach or speak, that costs money. So you got funeral costs, catering hall if you're going to use a place. Sometimes people might use their home to save money and just have food. Whatever it is, if that's what you choose to do, you need to look up all of the expenses when it comes to a funeral. I gave you a lot of them, maybe all, but there might be a couple I may have missed. That's why I always say do your own research and look and see. But all of that is an expense. What is it that you want, and what type of burden would that be on your family? Could you afford that? Could your family afford it? Because most people think we have to do it this way to honor that person. But do that person really want it that way? Is that what they really want? Have a conversation and have a meeting with your family and come to terms so that people know what to expect, because you know how people is. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, why you didn't do? But it's not about what everyone think you should be doing. It's about honoring what the person wants. Now, very quickly, I do want to say, when you have a will, there are a lot of things that you could put in the will. You could put, obviously, your personal property in the will. You could put your whatever assets you have. You have to remember, if you have a bank account, you have to put a beneficiary on your bank account so that the person can have access to the money that's in your account, because if their name is not on it, the bank will give them a hard time to get access to those funds. But if they are a power of attorney and things like that, I believe that might work, but do your own research. But again, I'm telling you, you need to have beneficiaries on your bank account. Make sure that when it comes to your investments and your stocks and stuff like that, I wouldn't put that stuff in the trust. Okay, you could do your own research on that as well. I wouldn't put those things in the trust. I will only put things like homes and rental property, stuff like those type of things in the trust, but not my liquid cash or stocks and things, my investments. No, but you can put that in your will. We want these things to be planned way ahead of time. Okay, way ahead of time. What you want to do is make sure that you have all of your things in order and you have one folder that has everything in it. So when a person needs to handle something, they're not looking through your attic, your garage, several rooms, your living room, the storage, the box, and papers are all over the place. It's so stressful trying to figure out where people's stuff is when you can go directly to one spot, one folder. Everything is there. Less stress on you. You can handle things and think as clearly as possible while you're grieving when it comes to taking care of business. So I would recommend having those documents in one place. And I would also recommend having a backup electronic copy. Why? Because fires happen. People steal. Things get lost, right? What if that happened and you now have nothing? So what you want to do is email yourself and the individual, the person that you're giving access to, should have a way to get your password into your emails, right? Just in case they need to get in there and get important documents. But email it to them or that person so that if anything happened, they have something electronically to go back to. Okay, guys, that is the end of this episode of Securing Your Family's Future, and I really hope that this was helpful. Please remember, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all on the next show.
We hope you enjoyed your time with Lady Miz on Talk Therapy. We'll see you next time, and listen to us on all streaming platforms.
From the ground up. From the ground up. There's only one way to go from here.